And we are live. JT here. Welcome to the huddle. The huddle is where I sit down with successful people from the world of sport and coaching. It's to learn more about their journey to greatness. Why do I have these conversations? Because success always leaves clues. I want to take a moment to thank you, whether you are watching our conversation on Facebook or on YouTube, whether you are listening to the audio on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me and my special guest today. And here's my reminder to you. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's wide open. So my challenge to you is to go all in on this conversation, to remove any distractions and get laser focused in the here and the now. And I guarantee you, you will gain a valuable nugget of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. I've been looking forward to my conversation with my special guest today. We've had some beautiful conversations. We've got to know each other over the last little bit, and I just felt it was, important to bring him on to share his journey to greatness and just sort of harvest, some of those nuggets he's picked up along the way. My guest in the huddle today is the offensive coordinator for the York Lions football program, and he's also the co-head coach for the Brampton Bulldogs in the OSFL. My guest in the huddle today is Coach Nathaniel Griffith. How are you today, Coach?
Not too bad, JT. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate the opportunity and getting to share a little bit about my story and what we're doing over here in Brampton and York.
Okay, brother. Well, before we get kicked off, pun intended, I just want to take a moment to count my blessings. And for me, this is a daily practice. Some days I do it better than others, but I do find the days I am more disciplined and count my blessings, that life tends to feel a little richer, a little more fulfilling. I'm a firm believer that the biggest blessing you can give anyone is your time and energy. So I just want to thank you again for blessing me and our community with some of your time and energy today, brother.
100%. Always happy to hop on with you and have a conversation and, help anybody that needs a little bit of motivation on a Wednesday morning here.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm curious, one of the things I like to remind myself and anyone I work with is this idea that life is a game and games are supposed to be fun. I had a coaching colleague and a great friend who said, we all have our quirks. We all have these things that make us unique and different. So celebrate it. So I'm curious, what's an interesting fact that maybe a lot of people don't know about you that you'd be open to sharing with our community?
That's a tough one. There's so many different things. Couple of things. I guess one of the main things that I really like to do is, challenge myself to keep up with the guys that I'm coaching. So that's something that I try to do. I like to get into the gym with them, work out with them, really try to push them and motivate them that way through a little bit of friendly competition, the not so old guy trying to push the young guys and vice versa, them trying to push me. So that's kind of how we like to get after it, whether it's York or Brampton. We like to get into a little bit of the verbal warfare with the young guys and keep them on their toes and keep them guessing on what coach can do.
Yeah, I love that. And it reminds me about this idea that great leaders are only preach what they are willing to consistently practice themselves. And it sounds like, again, you are someone who values challenging themselves, who wants to challenge himself to learn and grow. So I'm curious, what have you noticed as you challenge the people you're blessed to work with in a loving way? Like, what are you noticing as they see quote unquote old coach get up there and, hey, coach can still hang?
Yeah, I think it really just opens the door of, it's easy to say, do this, do that, do this, do that. But when they see that you're willing to, get in there with them and put the work in, they kind of respect that a little bit in a different way. Not that they don't respect you if you don't, but in a different way, they respect the fact that you can still go in there and work as hard as them and, do some things better than them. And for the most part, the young guys are usually shocked. They're usually like, wow, the coach can still do it. You can still move. So that's kind of the way I like to motivate in a different way. Obviously, there's tons of ways to motivate, but just another way to get the guys going, show them, you're doing a lot, but there's more that you can do. There's more work to go still.
So it sounds like, again, it's leading by words and actions.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, sport has obviously played an important role for you in your life, right? You were a high quality athlete and you've transitioned into becoming a high quality coach. And the really cool thing about your journey is it's at your alma mater. So I'm curious, what has been the biggest life lesson that you've taken away from sport? Again, I know there's many, but is that lesson that you find yourself applying to other areas of your life today?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, there's so many, right? For me, I feel like I've had a great opportunity to work with a lot of good coaches throughout my career, whether it was in summer ball with Brampton Bulldogs, or I actually went for 2 years. I went to Montreal. I went to Vanier College. So over in Vanier College, had the opportunity to work with some great coaches like Coach P over there. And then my career here at York, I had the opportunity to work and play for Coach Craney before I actually coached with him. And one of the things that he taught me, sat me down in his office one day and talked about opportunity cost. And, we only get so much time to have an opportunity. And what are you willing to give up to make that opportunity work for you or get the best out of that opportunity? So I think that's something that I learned at a early year in my university career and something that I apply to everything I do, right? You only get so many opportunities, right? Like I only get one opportunity potentially to be on this show with you, right? So I need to make sure I take advantage of that opportunity and put all the work in that I can to get the most reward out of it.
So it sounds like, again, that question, like, and again, it's challenging yourself in a loving way to say, what price am I willing to pay, right? Like, what am I willing to invest my time and energy into to actually achieve the thing I say I want to achieve?
Exactly. It's easy to say, I want to be this, I want to do that. But, sometimes you have to be willing to give up time, give up, having fun, going out on the town or whatever it may be successful in the thing that you want to be successful in. For me, it's come in a bunch of different ways. Like in my playing career, like I said, it was, giving up opportunities to make money, to get in the gym and, get in the classroom, make sure I'm getting everything done on that side to be successful on the field. In coaching, sometimes it's, like I said, opportunities to maybe, go see friends or take another job somewhere else, and you're giving up that opportunity sometimes for less money, or you don't know what the opportunity that is going to come may be, right? So it's kind of a sacrifice. It's a different way of sacrificing for what you want out of life and what you're looking to attain.
And you bring up an interesting word. You bring up the word like sacrifice. And it's interesting because, again, I know you coming from a high quality athletic and coaching background, that's one of the things I love about working with, high quality athletes and coaches is there's a willingness and an understanding that I need to be willing to pay a price today to achieve what I want tomorrow. So I'm curious, from the many high quality, high performers that you've been blessed to work with, what is the connection between their willingness to sacrifice and who actually ends up being the most successful?
Yeah, I think they go hand in hand. I mean, obviously there's God-given talent and something that, you naturally have, which puts you in a spot to be successful early. But I think as you get older and as you get into university, a lot of the guys that maybe had the God-given talent but aren't putting in the work that gap really narrows and sometimes can flip just based on work ethic and doing all the right things. And some of the things that really hold guys back, I find, is just natural work ethic. Like, you might have all the talent, you could be a D1 talent, but you don't put the work in class, and you can never get there. Like, you'll never get there. It's there's no easy button to being successful. You have to put the work in, whatever it is. Regardless of how talented you are, you have to put the work in, and you have to have direction as well, right? You have to know what needs to be done. I find a lot of the times the high school guys that I work with, they don't know what it takes to be a university athlete in terms of schooling, not even just the gym and football, but in terms of school, they don't know the path to get there. So I find a lot of what I do in the summer is just coaching in terms of, this is what you need to get done in order to get where you say you want to go, right? Because it's great to have a dream, but until you know the path that you need to be on to get there, right, it's never going to be attainable. So that's definitely a part of it that I find is tough for guys. Like, sometimes guys are in grade 11 and they're finding out, oh, I need to be in university classes to play football at the next level, right? And now you have like a 2-year struggle to try to make up some of the time just because they didn't know that they had to do that. So those are some of the challenges that I find right now, the high school kids, is just knowing the right path to get on. And then, sometimes they need the guidance. Sometimes they also need to go out and seek it, right? They need to say, this is what I want to do. How do I do that? And start to ask the tough questions. So.
I love what you shared there, and what I really heard from that was this idea, like, of that quote, and I'll paraphrase it, is a goal without a plan is merely a wish or a hope.
Exactly.
Right? It's great to have big, hairy, audacious goals and dreams, but again, are you consistently putting in the work? Again, day in, day out, even on the days you don't, quote unquote, feel like it. And again, what it really references is the power of habit.
100%.
Okay. So I'm curious, you mentioned that there's sometimes a disconnect between what people say they want and what they're actually doing on a consistent basis. I'm curious, what have you noticed from a habit perspective? What separates those that you've been blessed to work with, those that are super successful, and those maybe that don't maximize their potential?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different things. I think obviously the mind is a great tool, right? So if you don't know, for example, how, like I was talking about before, getting to university, right? If you don't know how to get to university, right, you need to come up with a plan. You need to talk to people that do know how. You need to find a way to figure out the information, right? You can't sit back and wait for, for example, some of the guys that I work with, like, I ask them, what's your plan? Are you planning to go to university? And their response will be, yeah, of course, I'm planning to go to university. And then my next question is always, how's school going? What are the grades like? What courses are you taking? And half the time it's, I'm in college English, I'm in college math. And I'm like, do you know what you need to get to where you say you're trying to go? Right. And half the time I see their eyes just like open up, like, wow, like I'm not even on the path that I need to be on. So I think the mind is the biggest thing, just knowing and seeking knowledge of what you need to do to get to where you want to go. Obviously the body and physically, there's definitely a big emphasis on the physical side, playing football. But they say the game is 90% mental. So, you need to make sure you have your mental mind state in the right place, and the body will follow.
I love that. Again, a powerful reminder that, your body's an instrument of your mind, right? So you got to train this and discipline this so that you get what you want out there. Okay. The other thing which you mentioned was that idea, I heard that Winston Churchill quote, that responsibility is the price of greatness. So it's interesting because, coming from a background in education, right, we're sort of programmed and conditioned and trained that the information is just going to come to us, right? Like, oh, it's someone else's responsibility to tell me what I need to do to get to university, right? Like what are the courses I need to take in grade 12, 11, 10? So it's interesting how you brought up this idea. No, like you need to be clear on what you want. And then you need to surround yourself with a strong and powerful team of people who know how to get you there, and immerse yourself and listen and be open to their wisdom.
100%. Like when I finished school, I wanted to be a teacher originally. So I was going to go to teachers college and, ended up getting offered an opportunity to coach. So I kind of went down that path to start off, and fortunate for me, I've been able to stick it out for the time I have and gotten to the place I am. But I think one of the things that drove me to going and thinking about the teachers college route was to be able to help the youth in that way, right? To be able to lean on, I think the key thing is being able to find somebody in the educational field that you can lean on to help you figure it out. Whatever it may be, whether it's college, university, trade, right? You need to have an idea of what you want to do. And it's tough, right? We ask our youth to know what they want to do at 14 years old when they enter high school, which is super hard, right? It's hard to know exactly what you want to do, where you want to go, but that's the nature of how our system is set up, and decisions you make in grade 9 and 10 can affect what you're going to do in the future. So I think it's just about educating them and making sure they understand, where to go and what the risk reward is of doing each option, right? One thing that I try to live my life by is, everything we do is a choice. So, you got to make the right choices. And if you stack the right choices on top of each other, you end up at what you want to be or where you want to go, right? So it's tough. It's a big field that definitely kind of gets overlooked a little bit in terms of kids getting to university. And obviously it's a little bit of an issue everywhere around the world in terms of knowing the path and how to get to the path and who has access to the path and how do we get access, right?
Well, it's interesting that you talked about, choice, right? And it's interesting that, earlier you were talking about this idea of like your body's an instrument of your mind. And you talked about this idea of like free will, right? Being a mental muscle, one of your 6 mental muscles. And it's interesting how you challenge yourself that, hey, I have the power to choose in this moment, right? I'm a sum, everything that's happened up to this point is a byproduct of the choices I've made up to this point. And it's interesting how freeing that is when you start to realize that at the end of the day, regardless of what's happening, I have the power to choose my next thought.
Exactly. 100%. I agree 100%.
Okay. So I'm curious, you mentioned that you were thinking about education, going into education. And I believe you're an educator at heart. We've had enough conversations. You're an educator at heart. Your journey right now is just at the youth sport level, and football's your vehicle right now. So I'm curious, what inspired you to, choose this path, to pursue coaching, educating, mentoring at the youth sport level as a football coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think just growing up in Brampton and playing with, different guys from different cultures and different backgrounds, different lives really in terms of, how they're living class. I think it was just something that I always found very interesting. And, I played on some really good teams with some really good players. And, some of the most talented guys didn't end up getting where I feel like they should have been. And most of it was just from lack of education or lack of knowledge and knowing the right path to get on, right? And sometimes we limit ourselves, and I felt like that was something that I could definitely change, just in terms of, personally, I'm actually the first one in my family to go to university. So, I found the path to get that done. It wasn't a straight and narrow path. I had to, find my way throughout my time. But I thought that was something that I could definitely bring back to my community and my family and people that I get to work with in order to try to guide them down the right path to help make their lives what they want it to be, right? So that's definitely kind of what led me to this. Coaching specifically, I would say, to be honest, just always had a big love for football. It was always something that I put a lot of time into, mentally, physically, trying to be the best athlete that I could be. And slowly, even when I was playing, I was already coaching a little bit at some younger ages, and just kind of fell in love with the coaching side of it. Fortunately for me, Coach Craney gave me an opportunity when I graduated to come on board and start coaching. And actually, I ran study hall my first year. So I ran study hall and coached, and then just kind of built from there. And every year kind of moved up the ladder a little bit till I got to the point that I'm at now.
I love your share. And there are a couple like nuggets there that I really wanted to unpack. You're the one. I think it's amazing that you are the one who was the first, to graduate that post-secondary. Like, you're the one who has changed the trajectory of your family tree, right? Like that to me is, just think of what that is worth for your future family, the generations after you, your kids. Like, you're the one who changed the trajectory of the family tree. And the other thing that I really love that you shared, and I think one of the things that was unique about your journey is, as I was preparing for our conversation today, I realized how there have been all these, like, you were putting in a lot of focus reps and sets in coaching long time ago. So people may now see, oh, here's Coach Griffith. He's the OC at York. But again, they didn't see that, hey, I was coaching minor football years ago, right? I was willing to go to Vanier and coach. I was willing to work at the stadium. I was willing to be study hall. Like, it's interesting how sometimes it's easy to look at where someone's at now, and we forget all the focus reps and sets, goal achieving action that they took to get here. So it's powerful, brother.
I appreciate it. It's definitely a long journey. But again, I was also blessed. Like, I got given a ton of opportunities and a ton of trust as a young guy, coming out. So I was probably 25 when I got my first job coaching. So, it's been a little bit of a journey for me, but we've been working at it and obviously learning a lot. Also took advantage of some great opportunities in terms of professional development along the way. Getting to go down south and work with some outstanding coaches, and then working with some CFL coaching staffs as well. So, we've had a lot of opportunity, and even with Team Ontario, get to do a lot of stuff with Team Ontario throughout the years. I've been fortunate to get plugged into some good situations there. So, just taking advantage of every opportunity that comes my way and trying to make the most out of everything is kind of the mindset that I take and love doing it. So,
yeah. Again, it sounds like, your commitment to being open to opportunity. And it was interesting as you shared that, because you talked about this idea of being open-minded, right? And as I often reference, the mind's like a parachute. It works best when it's wide open. So it sounds like being open, being coachable is really important to you. And it's interesting because as high quality coaches, we want coachable athletes, but it's a great reminder that you must first be coachable yourself. You must be willing to learn from others and their wisdom, their lived experience. So I'm curious, was there a coach or mentor that helped you to understand that, you are a long life learner?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I've had so many good coaches. It's tough to pinpoint one. Like, I definitely learned a lot of what I do from Coach Craney. He's probably been the biggest mentor to me in terms of the coaching world. But I've had opportunities to work with a lot of guys, like Coach Fald. I've worked with a bunch. He was actually my OC while I was here at York. Across in Montreal, Coach P taught me a ton, as well as when I was a player, working with Coach Pete Chris Amalis. I learned a ton from him over there, a ton about sacrifice and being willing to sacrifice for what you want. Yeah, there's been so many. Coach Ewing in Brampton coached me when I was just a young guy, Coach O'Donovan as well. So, people come into your life and you get opportunity to work with, coaches and people from different backgrounds. And I try to steal a little bit from everybody that I work with. And, sometimes I catch myself saying things that, coaches said to me, and it's kind of hilarious. Like after the convo's done, you look back and you're like, wow, I never thought I would be giving, that same speech that I had years ago. So
No, it's awesome. And it's great to hear again how many mentors have poured their time, their energy, their belief, their passion into you. And it sounds like you're just now doing the same for those that are a little further behind on their journey, or they're climbing the ladder slightly a little bit behind where you were.
100%.
Okay. So one of the interesting things, again, being a York alum, and now coaching there, I find it interesting because, again, as we've had some conversations, we've had other conversations with some of your other coaches. I think of my conversation with Coach Okpro last year in the huddle, and we talked about York's an interesting beast, right? Like, again, being a GTA Toronto guy, they were actually the school that I thought I was going to go to. I kind of pulled a pivot at the last minute, but there's something about York that's different. Like, I think it's one of those schools that really embodies the diversity of Toronto, of GTA. And I'm just not sure that everyone knows what a beautiful destination it could be. So I'm curious, what has been the thing that's kept you there? Like, what is that? What makes York like kind of like a hidden gem where it's like, okay, you're going to have a beautiful football experience, but you're going to get a more beautiful experience in life.
Yeah, I think you touched on some big points about it. I think first off, the one thing that really opened my eyes to York when I was going on my visits and my tours when I was a player was the setup of the university. Like it's, coming from being a Brampton guy, you'd hear about York and you'd be like, York, it's a university down the road. And when I got on campus, my eyes were really open to like how good of a setup the university is. It's an all-encompassing campus. You don't have to leave campus for anything. Like we have literally everything on campus that you can imagine. Sometimes I'm still shocked by some of the things we have on campus. I'm running over here and over there to get stuff, and then I'm like, why don't I just get this at York? Like they have it right on campus. So I think that's part of it. The melting pot, like you said. Culturally, it's definitely a melting pot. You get a good look at what it is to be a Torontonian in terms of culture, different clubs for all the different cultures on campus. Tons of different opportunities on campus. I think because we're one of the biggest schools in the country, there's a lot of opportunities on our campus that you can't get at a smaller school. Right. Now there is some different things that come with that. There's some bigger classes. There's a lot of people on campus. Parking is tough. I'll be honest, parking's tough. But once you find your way around and the campus well, it's a beautiful campus to be on, and definitely love that about it. I think the other thing about it is that it's home for me. It's close to home. It's close to everything that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. So it's a little easy for me to stay close to home and my family over here. Yeah. There's so many different things about the university that I love. I think it's still a growing university. So I think that's pretty cool. Even though we're one of the biggest universities, there's still so many opportunities for growth and for development inside of the university. Other than that, just, what really kept me here was the staff and, the players that I get the opportunity to work with on a day-to-day basis. So that's really what's kept me around and, keeping me close to home. So,
yeah. Well, it's interesting as you share there, right? You started highlighting all these amazing opportunities, right? To really immerse yourself in what it means to be a Torontonian, right? Even if it's for 4 or 5 years. And what really came out there was you're a shining example of what's possible because you're a York alum. So it's interesting how you're the one that changed your family tree. you're a shining example of what could be when you're willing to sacrifice, when you're willing to pay a price to go all in on your dreams. Again, you get to show these young people what's possible.
I mean, I appreciate that. I guess when you're doing it, you don't really look at it that way. You're just doing what, what's presented to you and what you find to be the best choice, I guess, in terms of how you want to go about life and making a change. So that's really, really kind of how I go about it, but appreciative of the kind words.
So I'm curious, depending on when people are watching this, listening to this, York is going through a transition, right? And transition's always beautiful because I find it's filled with opportunity, it's filled with possibility. I'm curious, what does it feel like to be in this where, again, we're going to celebrate your past, but again, now you have an opportunity to create your future moving forward, right? Your future, York Lions football future. What does it feel like to be part of this new, I don't know, possibility, opportunity?
Yeah. I'll say at first it was definitely a shock. I've only known Coach Craney being the head coach since I've been here in 2010. So it's definitely a little bit of a shock for me when I first got the news. But I think also for the team, it was a little bit of a shock. And then obviously, it kind of sets in, okay, this is the new future and we're going to move forward. And I think the guys, first and foremost, have responded really well. The work ethic's been outstanding on our team. And in our staff as well. Coach Okpro stepped into the role, and we've really been following his lead and working super hard for him and trying to make sure that we do everything we can on our side to make the program great. I think the focus has really been, pouring into our guys while at the same time recruiting the future of the team, which is a tough balance to have, but you got to find a way to do both. And I think we've been doing an outstanding job and just continuing one guy at a time. That's something that I always say, right? We're building our program literally one guy at a time. So every person that comes into the program is important to us, and finding the right guy is kind of how we go about doing that. We're looking for, good kids with good backgrounds that work hard. Academics has to be important to them because you need academics at this level. It's just something you have to have regardless. We're going to do everything on our side, as a program to help you on the academic side, but you also need to put the work in and do everything on your side as well. So that's kind of where we are as a program, just taking it one day at a time, building it one player at a time is kind of how we're looking at it.
So it sounds like a big focus as we move forward here is like this idea of like really creating champions for life, right? Like winning football games is great, but it's about not only winning in the next 4 years, but in the next 40 years.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything we do is about, the student athletes first.
Yeah.
And obviously when you say student athletes, that has an emphasis on the importance, right? Yeah. You're a student athlete, so you have to be a student to be the athlete. So that's something that we do. That's one of our big pillars, is definitely the academic side of the house. As much as I love football, I couldn't play it without academics either. So it's definitely part of what we preach and what we're looking to build. We're looking to build, great men for our community and for themselves and their families, right? And that's really what we're looking to do. Obviously, that's how you get, some of the alumni that we have, right? They were great men, great students, great athletes, and they've become, great alumni of York University. And that's really what we want every athlete to do that comes on campus.
Love that. I love that commitment, that ongoing commitment to supporting, like you said, the student athlete, right? The whole person. So I'm curious again, being a Toronto GTA guy, you've been part of the, Football Ontario system, right? First as a high quality athlete, then as a high quality coach. So I'm curious, what do you see needs to happen, right? One of the beauties is, before we came on here, was it feels like people are more aligned. Like it's like you have the right people on the proverbial bus, that are working towards one vision, right? Of really sharing and growing our beautiful game. I'm curious, what would you say needs to happen for us to continue to grow and bless more young people, to create more opportunities within our beautiful game?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, First off, I think one of the big things that we did recently was creating OSFL again. Growing up, OVFL was a big summer league that I thought was a very strong summer league. And for a period there, we kind of had 3 or 4 different leagues going on. I don't want to say that it ruined summer ball, but it definitely kind of just diluted the talent pool,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas guys from one city were playing for, a bunch of different teams, and it kind of made it hard to put together some very competitive teams. With the OSFL back, I think summer ball's back in a great situation,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that I thought was a good move organizationally for us. Also, high school, obviously, COVID did a lot of damage to high school programs. Now, some of the top programs, some of the programs that have been good for a long time were able to get through it and succeed, and some of them even came back stronger than when COVID hit. But some of the smaller programs or lower tier programs kind of ran into some money issues or different things. So I think a big focus needs to be on building that back up, especially in the GTA. I know the GTA took a pretty big hit football wise. So I think that needs to be a focus of where we look to get back to where we were prior to COVID, if not move it forward even more than that. I think that's one of the cool things about Ontario football compared to the other provinces is we kind of have 2 separate seasons. We have like the high school, then we have the summer, which I think is great for the guys in terms of opportunities to play football and develop and learn different things in different programs. So I think we're doing some great things on that side. Obviously, Team Ontario, I think we're doing a great job with the way that we've organized in terms of ID camps, getting the pads on. Red Black Weekend has been outstanding. I think it's one of the best things that we do as an organization. But yeah, I think there's definitely opportunities to grow. It's just a matter of, finding the funding. Obviously, football is an expensive sport.
Mm-hmm.
So finding the funding, especially at the high school level, has been a little bit of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So just continuing to work, with the people that we know can get us funding and the government, and finding ways to get football to be more of a priority in high school, I think would be a big step.
Mm. It's interesting, like as you share that, this idea of like opportunity, which again is a word you've referenced a lot, and it's looking for these opportunities to create more alignment. I, again, depending on what people are looking at, I think of, this upcoming ID camp that we have at York. One, it's an opportunity for our Football Ontario family to really immerse themselves on what could be a beautiful experience at York, right? To really like get on campus, boots on the ground, and actually see like this is what life could look like. And then it's again working with, the York Lions football program, the OSFL clubs, the high schools in the area to sort of help just bring more, student athletes, coaches, parents, community members to the table. And it's interesting how when we align ourselves there, it just, I don't know, it just provides a richer and deeper, more meaningful experience.
100%. I think also, just like you said, finding more opportunities to be in the same room, right? It's tough. Like everybody's kind of in their program doing what they're doing. But one of the big things that I really like when we go down south for some professional development is just how involved all the high schools are with the university programs in their area.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll be at Alabama and there's 2,000 Alabama high school coaches there, right? And they're all from different programs, but they're all conversing. They all know each other. It's kind of like a much not to say that our community is not tight, but it's a much tighter community than kind of what I see around in Ontario football. So I think there's definitely some room to grow in terms of that, and finding each other at the same table, right? Camaraderie, knowing who each other are. At the youth sports level, I think we do a great job of it, but it's probably because we have a ton of events that we're all at. So we all get to know each other. We all work together. But I feel like at the high school level, it could be even more impactful, right?
Yeah. And it sounds like, again, that idea of like, there's this illusion of separation, right? Like I need to keep everything secret of what I'm doing, where, as you were mentioning, if we look at best practices from the model, right? And I would say, American football being, this is what could be, it's like this idea of unity. Like we all have the same, I would like to think that all of us got into coaching for that reason, right? Is to, bless and help and serve other young people along their path. And it's interesting when we sort of unify towards that vision, we're more open to diversity of thought. We're more open to sit down at the table and just having meaningful conversation. It's okay to agree to disagree. That's okay.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Okay. So, brother, I want to be respectful of your time and energy. So I'm curious, what is the best way for people to connect with you? Maybe they have questions about, could the York Lions football program be my next destination, my next adventure? Could Brampton be, a beautiful destination for spring, summer ball? What is the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, so I got a couple ways. The first one I would say is by email. My email is not sure if you can splash this on the page as we go here or whatever, but my email is ngriff, so NGRIFF 88 at yorku.ca. Or by Instagram, you can get me at Coach Griffith YU. Also on Twitter, Coach Griffith YU, same tag. But yeah, always open to conversation and, helping anyone that needs a hand along the way, whether it's players, coaches, whatever it may be. Anything that I can do to help out the community is definitely open and willing. So.
Absolutely, brother. And I appreciate you sharing. And I'll be sure to share in the description, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or the podcast, and share all the ways people can connect with you. Nathaniel, I just want to take a moment to thank you. And I want to thank you for the great man you are, the great husband you are, the great dad, the great teacher, coach, but more importantly, the amazing human being you are. The one thing that I've definitely come to appreciate about you is just, again, your big passion for life. Like, I love the fact whenever you see, you're always willing to, again, get those arms out, give me a big hug. And I just feel the love, brother. I feel the energy, the enthusiasm, the passion for life. So I just want to thank you for always inspiring me to a willingness to just embrace life with a big hug, big smile on your face. And thank you for being a shining light in my life, brother.
I appreciate it, JT. You do the same thing for me. So, whenever I get to an event, I always get a nice little motivational startup from my guy, JT. So I appreciate it. Appreciate everything you're doing for Ontario football. And I know you have a lot on your plate too. So appreciate your time and energy and everything that you've put into building your success on your side.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. I received that. So, folks, Coach Griffith dropped so many valuable nuggets of wisdom that won't only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. But as I like to remind you every time we meet in the huddle, that knowledge is potential power. It's the consistent and focused application of great knowledge that actually creates great results. So my challenge to you is to take one of these valuable nuggets of wisdom, go apply it to your life today. And as I remind you every time in the huddle, you are deserving of greatness. You are worthy of greatness. You are greatness. And my only ask from these conversations is, if it resonated with you, if it touched your heart, then please share this conversation with a friend, a loved one, a teammate, or someone in your life that you feel just needs to hear these inspiring and empowering ideas. The more people we have learning, hearing, understanding, and applying these simple ideas to their life, the more beautiful this world will be. As always, I look forward to chatting with you next time in the huddle. Have a blessed rest of your day.